Man, I'm fucking shiny. All right, coming at you with a death ranking. A lot of people have done this. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I guess I just wanted to get my own opinions out there. I think this band is one of the most fun to rank their discography and to argue about because all seven of their records are really good. Death is a legendary death metal band, needs no introduction, I would hope. I would assume if you're watching this, you've already heard most of these. So instead of talking about death and their history, I'm just going to jump right in here, all right? So here we go. Death rank. All right. Coming in at number 7, bottom of the pile, is Spiritual Healing. Now, awesome cover art aside, I love this. All these Ragonite looking whiteys. This one to me is the weakest. That doesn't mean it's bad. I just think it has the least amount of amazing songs, and I don't really like the production, particularly Chuck's voice. Sounds strange and echoey to me on this one compared to the others. This one is the third album of their, old school death metal classic era before they changed directions into a more, proggy, tech-oriented type group. And, I feel like you can tell creativity was running a little low in this one. He had a new bassist and guitar player from the previous album. Now, all that said, and here's a look at the tracks that are on this boy. Oh, sorry, there we go. Really, if you're going to check one out, the title track on the first song of side B, Spiritual Healing, is one of their best they've written, in my opinion. So it's not like this album is without its gems. I just think when you're comparing it to the 6 other incredible albums, it falls a little short. All right, coming in at number 6, maybe controversial, I'm putting the first album, Scream Bloody Gore. Also, awesome cover art. So this, to a lot of people, is considered the first death metal album of all time. Other people argue it was Possessed, Seven Churches. I don't care here nor there. I think it's kind of a gray area. Now with this one in particular, I'm seeing some what I call revisionist history in a lot of lists these days. A lot of people are putting this as like their number 1 or number 2 favorite, and I'm sorry guys, I feel like that's factually, demonstrably incorrect. This is the rawest one and has the least amount of technical ability shown and the roughest songwriting and production. And I understand there's some, charm to that. And this, I understand this being your favorite. I don't understand putting this as their number 1 best. I just don't understand. This is a great album, hugely influential. Let's look at the track list for you. I mean, Infernal Death, Zombie Rituals, Sacrificial, on the back, Baptized in Blood. There's Beyond the Unholy Grave. There's a lot of amazing songs on here. It's a great album. But the other 5 are better. It falls for me. All right, number 5. Individual Thought Patterns. I'm going to maybe rustle some jimmies putting this one this low. This one has, in my opinion, Death's most absolutely stacked lineup. Possibly in all of death metal in terms of technical ability. So you have Chuck leading the band, obviously. Then you got Andy LaRocque from King Diamond, Gene Hoglan from Everything Ever, Steve Giorgio from Everything Ever. He's playing a fretless bass, weirdly enough. I just think it doesn't quite live up to the potential of that lineup. And what I mean by that is I don't find myself reaching for this one all that often. And there's only a few tracks that like audibly make me stop and be like, that kicked ass. Play that part again. No, that said, it's still incredible. I think maybe this is an unfair dig I'm taking at it, but I just find myself reaching for this one far less than the others in Death's discography. And I can't really explain why. I mean, here's the track list. There's a lot of great shit on here. Overactive Imagination, particularly Andy's solo. Jealousy, Trapped in a Corner, The Other Side, Mentally Blind, and then The Fucking Philosopher are all fantastic tracks. Uh, Something about this one, though, it just makes me, again, it falls beneath the others. Yeah. All right, coming in at number 4. The mighty, sorry about the glare, guys. Sound of Perseverance. There we go. So this one, again, this was the last release before Chuck's death. And a lot of people debate if this is even death metal at all. It's definitely their most progressive release. And there's rumors out there, in the Death documentary that Chuck was toying with the idea of even putting clean vocals on this instead of doing his normal style. His interests at this point in his life were shifting away from death metal entirely. And I know that a lot of these riffs were toyed with being used in his other band, Controlled Denied. But the reason this album is still so high up is, despite it being in Death's prog era, it is just a technical masterpiece. It is a mammoth album. Richard Christie's drum work in particular for me is just... Every track is like, bet you can't fucking play this. And if you look at the back too, I mean... This is the Ultimate Edition, so really only up to like side C is the real album. There's not a weak one on this guy. I think this was the first one for me where it's just every track is like, that was fucking cool. So yeah, this one to me, really, really good. It's a bit of a divisive album, and I would understand having this at the top or bottom of your list. But for me, right in the middle. All right, we're into the really, really good ones now. Coming in at number 3, Human. So this album, if you'd asked me to do this list even a couple months ago, this would have been a lot further down my list. It's just really grown on me. I've learned to really like this one. And this album was the first in a major tonal shift for Death. It came right after Spiritual Healing. It's their 4th album. And this was the one where they kind of shed the raw sound and the death metal, old school death metal sound, and went in a more proggy, technical direction. So Chuck brought in Sean Reinert and Paul Masvidal, 2 guys who would go on to create the band Cynic, which I also love. Steve Giorgio was brought in. He became one of Death's most consistent members. This one has a lot of really good experimentation. It really bent the rules and pushed the boundaries on what death metal could be. Suicide Machine, Lack of Comprehension, those are both incredible tracks. The rest of it's good. I think the only gripe I can really pick with this album is the bass is very low in the mix. And you can't always... Steve is doing a ton of cool shit that you can't always hear. This also featured their first music video, and I think this was the album that took them from well-known among metalheads to just well-known. All right, most of you know what's left. So which one is it going to be? Coming in at number 2, we got Leprosy. So, in my opinion, this is the unquestioned peak of the early era. This is Chuck's, Empire Strikes Back, if the first 3 are Star Wars films. He took everything that was good about Scream Bloody Gore and just took it to another level. The songwriting's better, his playing is better, production's a little better, lyrics are, I think, more meaningful. Again, so in my mind, better. And my biggest thing with this is there is not a weak track on this thing. I mean, Death in general doesn't have a lot of weak tracks, but if you look at this lineup, almost every one of these songs is a fucking classic. And honestly, if I was going to... If someone told me I really like death metal, but I've never gone back and listened to Death, this is probably where I'd start them. This one's just an all-time classic. And the only reason it's number 2 is because number 1 exists. Bum-ba-na-na. Symbolic. This album, it was actually hard to write anything about this or say anything meaningful. Because it's really easy to point out the bad things in albums and stuff you don't like. But I've always found it tougher to describe really good things. Because, like, this is one of those albums, just go fucking listen to it. And if you have ears, you'll realize how good it is. I don't really need to tell you. The drums rock. The bass rocks. Guitars rock. Just go check this shit out. This album to me was the absolute culmination of Chuck's career. It takes everything, all his strengths, what he's best at, namely like really great songwriting and memorable licks, and it's just chock full of it. Every song on this one is memorable, and this was, again, it's debatable if it's truly death metal. It doesn't have this raw, brutal sound. It doesn't sound like, Suffocation or anything, or Cannibal Corpse. It's almost like Iron Maiden, except death metalized. I mean, so if you look at this lineup here, I mean, every single one of these is a goddamn classic. And I feel like this is one of those albums that you've got to be looking for flaws to find any. It's a masterpiece. It's probably in my top 5 metal albums of all time. And if you've never listened to this, what the fuck? Go check it out right now, today. Alright, that's it. Death Ranked. I think my next video, I don't put these out that often. I don't have time. Nor is there enough interest to justify it. It's more just when I'm bored. But what I'm going to do next is I will put out... I just saw a video on a channel called Metal Meltdown, and he was talking about spooky albums. And I'm sorry, Metal Meltdown, you're cool, but your list sucked. So I'm going to do, before Halloween, a list of my spookiest albums, and hopefully give you guys some spooks before Halloween. So, all right, cheers.